Okay, today we're going to be looking at ratio simplification, also known as writing a ratio in its simplest terms. And it's very similar to writing a fraction in its simplest terms, or what you might know as cancelling fractions. So we're just going to do 6 examples that pretty much cover all cases here. So if I've got a ratio of 4 to 18, and that's how we say it, 4 to 18, I can simplify that because 4 and 18 have common factors. It has a common factor of 2, so I can halve both sides. So with all this ratio simplification, I will be multiplying or dividing all sides or all parts by the same amount. So in this case, I'm dividing both sides by 2, so I'm halving 4 to get 2, and I'm halving 18 to get 9. I've now got a ratio that hasn't got any common factors, so that's in its simplest form. It's not just about halving. People seem to get into the habit of halving things, but 15 and 25 have a common factor of 5. So I divide both sides of the ratio by 5. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. 25 divided by 5 is 5. Once again, that's in its simplest terms. We get many ratios that won't simplify. 13 and 6 have no common factors apart from 1, and of course if I divided both sides by 1 I'll have exactly the same ratio, so we can't do anything with that one. That's already in its simplest term. This one's a little more unusual because it's got a fraction or a decimal in there, so I've got 4.5 to 3. Now we don't want decimals or fractions in our final ratios usually, so this one I'm actually going to double first to get it into whole numbers, so that's going to be 9 to 6. And now I realise that this has got a common factor of 3, so I can divide both sides by 3 and I end up with 3 to 2. So just occasionally you'll get a fraction that comes from a real life example, maybe with a decimal or a fraction in it. In its simplest terms, we need to get it into the smallest whole numbers possible. The difference between fractions and ratios is a ratio can have any number of parts. This one's got 3 sections, but it could have 4, 5 or more. And so we can still simplify these if each section has a common factor. So I've got 12, 8 and 20. These have got a common factor of 2, so I could halve each one. But actually that wouldn't be simplified fully, I'd have to do it again. But I can spot that these all have a common factor of 4. So if I divide all 3 parts by 4, so 12 divided by 4 is 3, 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. That's now in its simplest form. This last one is an unusual example because if you look at the first 2 terms, they've got a common factor of 2. If you look at the second and the third term, they've got a common factor of 3. And if you look at the first and the third term, they have a common factor of 5. But actually, there's no common factor of all 3 sections of the ratio, so that one is already in its simplest terms. You can't actually simplify that one.